Okay, so in the last video, we talked about how the conclusion section actually gets written. Here, we're going to talk about how it gets scored. So if you look at the first skill that we're going to get scored on, is interpreting data and information to make valid claims. So the first two levels of that is if you don't have a claim, you can't get scores on this. So you got to have that claim that we talked about in those previous videos. And that claim has to be accurate if you want to get at least a 3, because you can see that it says supports accurate claims. So if the claim cannot be backed up by the data, you cannot get more than a 2, right? Now, if you gave partial support for your claim, then you get a 2. To get enough support, you can get a 3. So how does that look like? I talked about in the last video. Don't just give me one piece of evidence with math. Don't just talk about the averages. Talk about averages, give me the numbers, but also do another piece of math. Maybe you do ratios or percentages or ranges and talk about why that matters. Maybe talk about patterns that you saw and mentioned in your conclusion section. The more you actually explain, the more support you give, the more likely you are going to be on the 3. To get to a 4, you have to discuss limitations. And we talked about it in the previous video. What went wrong? How is this going to affect your data? How is it that it limits your findings? And to get to a 5, mention how you can improve in the future. If you actually say, this is what went wrong, this is how you can fix it, you score a 5. And so that is interpreting data. The next Cox skill that actually matters is giving evidence, right? So it's kind of related to the previous Cox skill. So if you just mention the evidence, you give facts, right? You get a 2 because you identify the evidence. If you actually explain the evidence, right? So you say how the evidence supports the claim, you refer it back to the hypothesis, you refer it back to what you originally said, you're more likely to get a good grade. If you say analyze that evidence, so what is the difference? Analyzing the evidence is that part what I said where you actually go into why is the evidence good evidence? Why does the evidence matter? That's how you get to a 4. And so the target to get to a 4 is not just give evidence, but say why the evidence matters for your hypothesis and why is it good evidence is how you get to a 4. And if you do a good job with that, you get a 5. So that is how the rubric gets scored for the conclusion section. And the difference in this one is identify, to explain, to analyze the actual evidence. And if analysis is clear, you can actually get a 5. So if you have any questions about how to do any of this, make sure you come to office hours. Make sure that you send an email, get help, and submit it by the deadline so you can get the best feedback and do the best job possible when it comes to correcting it.